Good evening, everybody. Welcome to League of Extraordinary Inventors. I'm your host, Mike from Faraday Research. It is Free Energy Friday. It is September 12th, 2025. Welcome to the show. And we have our panel on today. We got Mr. Philip on, we got Bernie on. We have Mr. Ben that hasn't been on in a while. And we, last but not least, our special guest tonight, we have from Tesla Tech, Mr. Steve Ellswick. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a busy week. I'm getting back into the mode of setting up my next experiments. I posted a video today on picking up energy off of parasitic energy coming off a high voltage power line. And I was able to pick up about 240 volts per meter from just a standard. Yeah, so I have that video posted on the Faraday Research channel. And just for everybody that our live chat is open, so any questions, comments, feel free to post it for a
question or comment. The energy companies don't really like when you pull that extra energy off around their lines, do they?
Yep. So I'm going to be building a pyramid, and it's going to feature my special graphene mixture, and that's going to go on top of the pyramid to harness that, electromagnetic field from that cable. I'm going to put it through a spark gap, then I'll put it through a full high voltage full wave bridge rectifier. And I got the giant capacitors, the big oil-filled ones. They can handle about 2,500 volts DC. So from there, I'll be able to step it down, and I can use it to charge batteries, run the Renegade device.
So you just put it there, and the capacitor will charge on its own?
Yeah, it will be on I'm going to build like an 8-foot pole. It's going to be made of wood. It has to be made of wood. And the pyramid's going to sit on top of the post, and it's going to be completely isolated from the ground. I'm going to be using probably 1 gauge grounding cable. So I want major current coming through this. So I'll be using 1 gauge power cables for the setup, plus a spark gap. And also I have 6 of these giant, like I said, oil-filled high voltage capacitors. They're 8 microfarad at 2,500 volts DC.
So, are you going to be using more than one grounding cable?
I'm going to go by Tesla's patent. I'm going to try to copy his patent.
Sure.
As close as I can. So it's basically just one wire from the emitter, goes through the spark gap, and then before it goes to ground, it'll go through a high voltage full wave bridge rectifier, and then from there it goes to ground. So
why didn't we do that already if we can harness an electric field?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, if you wanted to harness, like, say, atmospheric energy, my pole would probably have to be about 300 feet high. So it's about 120 volts.
Right, about the height of the pyramid.
Well, it's 120 volts per meter, right? So that's by electrical theory, that atmospheric differential between the ground and the sky is 120 volts AC per meter. So to get into the kilovolt range, your pole is going to have to be at least 100 feet tall. So, to get into that potential range, mind you, this is all electrostatic energy that you're harnessing, right? So you have to modulate it. You have to pack it into good capacitors and soak up that energy, and then modulate it the way you want it. Put it through a step-down transformer if you want to get it down lower, and go that route. So that's what I'm going to be working on. That might actually go into my next Renegade device that I'm going to be building. So
cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. I want one as soon as you, because I'm gonna buy one as soon as you got it ready, because I'm sure I'm in the middle of a giant electric field here in my apartment complex.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised. I was surprised at as much power as I got. Like I was a good 50 feet away from the pole. Now, second, I went longitudinally to the lines. So if the lines are going straight in front of you like that, and you hold the meter up, I was getting over 240 volts AC per meter.
Okay.
So, and that's 50 feet away from the pole. So you imagine the amount of power is, if I were to be, say, 10 feet tall, I'm that much closer to the lines, right? So
Yeah.
all that energy.
And that much closer to getting the knock on the door from your local power company.
Technically, I'm not stealing it. I'm just picking up their dirty energy.
the residual.
Yeah, all the parasitic, magnetic flux that's coming off those wires. They don't insulate it. They're bare wires.
Yeah.
They're bare. So what the heck? You know what I mean? Like they're completely open. The magnetic frequency is just spewing
They're
everywhere.
exposing us to that field anyways, so why not take advantage to what some say is also harmful with it, right?
Everybody does. Right? But
it's the first thing you announce on your weekly show.
Yeah. But that's only one part. So the next part of the Renegade device that I've been researching is the wheel that spins. Now, the wheel that's spinning, when you get it up to 1,000 RPM, it's creating quite a bit of wind drag. So the new Renegade device is going to be built in a vacuum chamber. It's going to be in a complete vacuum. So therefore, there will be no wind drag. So if I put it on a very good set of magnetic lev floating bearings, I could get that friction down to almost next to nothing in a vacuum environment. So if I could get the chamber down to 0 atmospheres, I did the calculation with, say, a 5-pound rotor spinning at, say, 1,500 RPM. It would potentially spin on its own freely for 5 to 15 days based on that. So, we lost somebody here. Who did we lose?
Oh, we gained somebody.
Oh, we got Lulu there. Hi, Lulu.
Yeah. The Power Rangers circle is complete.
Yeah, the Power Rangers. We're missing Gerald.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'd like to ask Steve. Steve, you had a really good, very, very successful weekend there at Tesla Tech. Maybe you can talk about some of the highlights and what your overall impression was of the weekend there that you had.
Well, unfortunately, I don't get to see all the presentations because I'm out putting out fires. But I was extremely pleased. I mean, everybody was happy. Everybody had a smile. I think we had a great lineup of speakers. The only problem I've had since then is somehow when we're doing the DVDs, we had someone get mislabeled. And I spent the last couple of weeks here just getting that straightened out. So,
yeah,
the live stream went great. For those who did get the live stream.
How many speakers did you have total?
We had about 28 speakers.
Wow, that's great.
So, and we had what's his name, Terrence Howard there.
Right. Yeah, you had a celebrity.
Yeah, and there's and Dr. Yu, you there too, and it went well. You tend to think in terms of magnetism as opposed to electrical world, and and then if you've ever followed anything by and my brain's gone. Malusky, Dr. Malusky. And he put together this thing about magneticity and everything, and how he's theorizing that we're getting ready to go through a part of the universe where the electrical side of the equation may not work, and you have to work totally on the magnetic side, and so I kind of think that it's kind of where you is, you know.
Yeah,
And,
Eric Dollar talks a lot about this, and he really dives really deep into the Alexanderson antenna system, right?
well,
And it's kind of where you're going with, you know, is the magnetic field actually more important than the electric field? And that's where the Alexanderson system, it says he basically described it like the Alexander system like teleports the signal like in a different dimension. It goes into a different dimension because it's able to propagate from point A to point B instantaneously, not by Hertzian means, by some other form that we haven't really gotten a proper grasp on, you know. And that's why he talked. If you look at his Lone Pine writings and his early videos, he talks about the Alexanderson system in pretty big detail. So, if it,
the other thing that Eric will bring out, though, is that when I was at the video he put together in Santa Barbara, the free energy one, I think it was 1987. I'm in that one as a guest there. But
Nice.
he was showing how, like, you have these capacitive circuits, and the capacitive side,
he called it the analog computer. That's
one side looks like a root, and the other in the inductance. Okay, I think it's the inductance side. It looks like a root. Okay, and then the capacitive side looks like tree branches. Okay, and
Right.
A true test device uses both the capacitive and the inductive circuits. And today in electrical design, okay, the circuits are almost entirely capacitive by nature because everything's built on semiconductors, and a semiconductor is just a wire on top of an insulator there, which is basically is a capacitor there. Yeah.
Right. Like the wire, you know, it's pretty well known even through Bell Labs that electricity flows on the outside of the wire. And it's also been written by C.P. Steinmetz extensively on how energy flows around the wire. It doesn't flow in the wire.
But that may be somewhat, I think it depends on the thing, because one of the things I did at Unisys is failure analysis of chips, and you have like two wires, okay, running side by side, and that's a capacitor right there. Okay, so that's how come you have all this capacitive considerations doing, you get to high speeds and everything, But then the thing that's important is, like, if you go from a wire, you have like let's say a 10 micron wire, right? And for some reason somebody touches the chip or something and it blows a little piece of that metal off. Okay?
Right.
You start analyzing the actual current in that wire, okay, and you start figuring out the amount of heat that it produces.
Right.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
And,
Because in essence, the wire just acts like a waveguide, really, because the magnetic field is coupled around that wire, right?
Well, what happened? I think there's some physical stuff going on inside of that thing, because it generates heat, and the more heat it generates, the more it melts away. It could generate enough heat to melt aluminum. I've done the calculations on that, and it blew me away, because you're only dealing with a couple micron wide strip there,
Right.
And once you start reducing that, the thermodynamics just blows you away.
Right. So, like the regular power lines, they're running at 60 hertz. Okay. Now, if you were to change the frequency of that power line, okay, now that power line could be as thin as a hair, because if you have it at a high enough frequency, it's not generating heat. The lower the frequency, the more the heat you get. The higher frequency, you'll still have the current, but it doesn't bring the heat with it. and I've done a lot of experiments to prove that.
Well,
Right.
I think we're talking about two different phenomena here, because
Mhm.
part of the circuit goes through. There's always a physical movement of atoms inside of that thing, okay? And they proved that with rail guns, okay? Because when the rail guns were initially designed, they would break. They shouldn't break, because they're using Lorentz equations.
Right.
And Lorentz equations don't recognize that motion of the wire. But when you're dealing with high voltages and high amperages, all of a sudden it becomes a very significant factor, okay?
Yeah.
At the high voltages, because it does have enough to all of a sudden make a big difference.
Do you think it would affect the wire as far as its mass when you have these high currents flowing through it? Is there an
Yeah, it
effect
does.
on mass?
You get so much heat and it starts melting it. But
Yeah.
The other thing you're looking at though is like you're saying, where it's traveling on the outside too. Well, I think there's a certain frequency. Well, the higher the frequency, the more it goes out. And the 60 hertz frequency was selected because that was the maximum saturation without getting eddy currents in a standard wire at that time. Okay,
Right.
that's why that became the standard.
Right. And and you're looking at technology that's 125 years old plus.
Well,
Right.
it's
So-
still valid.
But it's still valid. But you figure in 125 years, they couldn't have upgraded the power grid at least 50 years down the road, do an upgrade on the system to make it more efficient, less parasitic, and EMF emissions coming off the wire. But it just seems like the electrical engineering just kind of pushed it aside and never made that a priority for long-term health effects, being exposed to it if your house is next to high voltage power lines. It just didn't seem like it was a priority for the government or the utility companies that deploy this stuff.
It makes a lot of difference, especially when you're doing these high voltage wires. And one of the cool things you can do if you live in an area with these high voltage wires and you have to live underneath them practically, in remodeling you always use the steel 2x4s and ground them, and you'll reduce the fields in the house tremendously. Yeah.
Right. Now
And,
your average.
And or what Mike was just talking about, can you just harvest it and then take it out? So it's like you're not just like grounding, taking it away. You're actually using that field that you're being exposed into potentially.
you want to do it in such a way that they can't accuse you of stealing it, because that's what happened to Searle. Well, kind of, only he was making his own stuff and they were accusing him of stealing it. And you just got to beware of these people. But what I wanted to get back to, it was like, I don't know if you remember this guy. I mean, I can't remember his name. And he had this device, which was basically one of the Tesla type devices where he was taking and collecting stray energy, basically.
Like you're talking about T. Henry Morey.
Beyonce, since T. Henry Moore is before my time. I knew his son, and his son claimed that he could do it, but his son didn't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I've seen that.
Don Smith, that's what I'm thinking of. Don Smith had a device,
Oh, Don Smith. Yeah.
But I'm looking at that, and I didn't see at that time. I didn't see how that would work. Okay, because his wires I thought was way too small to carry all the current he was talking about, right?
Yeah. And it made me wonder too, later down the road, he started suffering a lot of strokes. And I'm wondering, the energies this guy was exposed to when he was doing all this high voltage stuff.
Yeah.
He's working with 30, 40 kilovolts. Some of it was even higher than that, and you're working with him close proximity. And,
a lot of potential radiation in that.
That cannot be good for your body. You know what I mean? Like being that close and that much exposure.
Right, and it's a different type of radiation too, right? It is the thing, and it's close proximity.
Yeah.
Well, when you're dealing with spark gap devices, okay, first of all, you got a lot of ultraviolet coming off that thing, off that spark. that spark is a broadband generator. Okay. But the thing that got me thinking is later on, this guy Kipper comes in and he shows me how to build this device. And off a 3 amp input, okay, we were getting a 30 amp output. I seen it charge a battery from like 7 volts to 14 volts in about 2 hours. I thought the thing was going to explode. Okay. And the thing is, it never got hot. You know, and
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's no telling how much it was really putting out because we just had one of those clamp on it things, you know. When I tried to put an inline ammeter, it blew up in my hands. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of power in that circuit and everything. And I've come to the conclusion that we tapped into something, another dimension. And that was self-healing because the thing only lasted 3 weeks. And everything that he's built since then only lasted 3 weeks. You know, and so the thing is, what is this 3 weeks all about? You know, are we punching a hole through the?
Interesting that you bring that up, Steve, because earlier, hopefully, and Nathan's watching Old Man Builds, but him and Joe were they were doing on an episode right before this, talking about their own experiments there, where it seems like they're tapping through this other dimension when getting this specific 0 point energy that you're actually bringing it in from this other dimension. And then and see, look, there's Joe also watching. So they're both watching, know exactly what I'm talking about because they were just talking about themselves. If you guys want the link to join, feel free. But that's also the 3 week part that a lot of my own experiments with the electrolysis, it's like when I disconnect it, then like it'll be active for either 2 to 3 days or 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, that it just has this life that it just keeps going. And it's
you've polarized and charged that water, so you know that water is now like a battery in essence.
Oh, absolutely.
So it still has that charge, so your reactions are going to continue long after you've disconnected the power cable from it.
Yeah, but if you short it out, can you bring it back by shorting it out?
You probably could, yeah, if you short it
yeah,
in.
certain reactions with it, absolutely.
Because
but other ones will dead kill it too with the if it's, for instance, a sulfuric reaction there.
Do you think it's reacting with the cosmic background radiation field, and that's why you keep on seeing a longer resonance to it?
Potentially, because it's like it has that self-organization of spiraling where it literally looks like it arranges into these galaxies. Oh, and there's Nathan. Welcome, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
Hey.
Well, you know, one of the things that we've thought of, you know, is like if it, you know, like what a coherer is, do you? It's like a tube with loose metal filings in, and then when you put a large voltage across it, it will polarize the things and line up the filings, and it will actually conduct a current. Okay, that's what they used back in the early days of radio. Okay.
Yeah, the cathode ray tubes.
And then this before the ray tube. And then what they had was like this thing was decoher, which was a tapper, so they could tap it, so it restores the non-conductivity of the tube there. Okay, and we're thinking, you know, maybe that's what we need, is some kind of decoher to break this thing up, and maybe we could recharge it. That's the time I asked you about the shorting, because if shorting will restore it, that would be a form of decoherence. You know.
Yeah, you create you have to create the non-equilibrium. You have to break the symmetry of the energy, and then you can remodulate it back into the system again. It's kind of like my Renegade device, where people has been asking me, "Oh, yeah, try to loop the motor." Right? A lot of people try to loop the motor, but the second they do it, the motor shorts out. So I put it through a bridge rectifier, dump it into a capacitor, then I put it through another rectifier. And after I do that, now I can loop it right back into the system, because I've broken the symmetry of the initial energy being emitted. So that could be something similar in your system, that you have to change the symmetry of the energy coming out and then feed it back in, like a feedback loop into the system.
Yeah, so in some my like reactors, that's actually like the key part of making it like the reactors operate without any electricity in, is that I change the galvanic breakdown of one of the electrodes, and then I just wire the electrodes to themselves within the closed system, and from that differential between, say, two identical silver coins, but one of them has the nano layering on the outside, that polarizes it as the anode and makes it the sacrificial decay, and then creates the flow above between the two connections to the other electrode, and then causes the other one to charge into the negative, being the cathode. And yeah, it's exactly how it works, just creating the differential between the system.
So you charge it like a
what if it
battery.
was the sorry to say interrupt, just I want to say something. Like, what if the connection itself, on one way it produces something, but on the outer way it, loops it back, but just from the electric or the energy that's being transmitted, it could do that. It
So like
will
the
create,
diode circuits
yeah, it will create like
system.
it will loop around it, like around the whole, like, let's say, connection, and it
Yeah,
will
it's like
loop
a
back the energy.
mini circuit
Well,
system in a sense, right?
well, the second you put current through a wire, a magnetic field is created.
Okay,
That goes
there is an energy loop back.
The second you put the energy through that wire, a magnetic field is created, and you can test that with a compass, right?
Yeah.
The second you put the compass right beside the wire, turn the power on, that compass will react to that, because the magnetic
Yeah,
field
Lou's
created.
essentially describing a flyback loop, though, right?
Yeah, that's probably what she's thinking.
Yeah, but I'm describing it before the energy is reduced to usable formats or scalable and measurements of whatever forms, whether it's on oscillators or tickers or whatever, because that eventually is like an energy tree for, systems to read, like digital systems to understand the uh, how strong the output is, how fast the output, and what spectrum is it pulsating,
Steve,
is it, you know
Steve, the device that you're referring to is what device again?
It's a Kipper device.
The Kipper device. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants the plans, just drop me an email at steve@teslatech.info, and I'll shoot them a free PDF of them.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it already. The last time you were on our show, I checked it out. So yeah, it's kind of like what I'm doing to my Renegade device, to loop that power back into the system, because you say after 3 weeks it just dies off, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to take some of the power that it's creating, put it through a bridge rectifier, then put it into a capacitor, then put it through another bridge rectifier and loop it right back in, the device will not short out.
Well, it never shorted out. I mean, in fact,
No.
it was code, and the thing
Right.
is when it did die, okay, something stopped, because all of a sudden it gets really hot, which it should have been in the first place. That's when you get all the heat, and you burn your hand on it, and it goes real fast, like you're talking within a minute or two, because it gets so hot so fast and just destroys everything.
So just prior to it losing power, the inductance goes through the roof. That would explain the heat.
Well, the heat is what you expect, because the heat comes
Right.
from distance.
So as it's collapsing, you have a huge drop in the differential of the power. And when that happens, it induces a current from the source, because it needs that power. And then when it starts losing it, the inductance goes up and it's trying to pull more in, right? So if there's nothing there, then whatever is in that space at that given time would probably add to the heat factor. I could be
Well,
wrong in this, but that's just a hunch of mine.
what I'm thinking is when it's operating, you're using a whole different set of equations. And then all of a sudden, when something gets thrown off, it throws you into conventional electro circuit analysis, and that's when it gets hot. And that's when you see all your heat and everything, because you're back to conventional, and you lost that etheric aspect to it. You know,
Right.
You should check the metals in it when it's dead.
Well-
You're gonna find you strip something off. It's not an electron you're stripping off. You're stripping off something else that's inside there and it's changing the metal itself. It's eating it until it's gone, and then when it's gone, the metal can no longer contain the energy going through it, so it goes sky high in heat.
Yeah, good point.
I forget the name of it, but you're pulling something out of it and you're changing the metal itself.
Well, there's a hysteresis happening there, obviously.
Well, yeah, but besides
But
that,
see-
you're physically taking something out of the metal, and they do it with nuclear stuff to make it so it doesn't
What
the
happens
bomb
on
go off and
electronics,
stuff like that.
dude?
But I will say one thing: when this thing is operating properly, things get really weird. I mean, because there's all kinds of people in these black vehicles traveling around town all of a sudden. So it's like they detect where it's coming from. They can detect the stuff, and they're trying to pin it down. You know,
Question, Steve. When you have it activated and you feel that it's like tapping in from the other dimension, are there like black shadows or like essentially like the eerie
I-
feeling, anything like that?
I never noticed it because, first of all, I couldn't believe it in the first place. Okay, and it should never have happened. And Chipper come and he's showing me that I was wrong. Okay, and I was being kind of I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Even like Eric, even Eric,
You
even
know,
even Eric Dollard said some of the stuff he worked on. There was a few times where he had a little bit of voodoo happening, and you know how straight laced he is on as far as electrical theory and just more of a mainstream type of electrical science. But he said from time to time, voodoo happened, and he said, "I stay away from it." He says, "I stay far away from it. I don't get involved in it. I just so."
Right? It's like
Wasn't it Einstein that said spooky action at a distance? With all of quantum physics.
Yeah, he was referring to something a little bit different.
remote viewing, I think it was, but it's like an
Yeah,
encounter.
if you're talking about that alternator system, that thing is in resonance. It has no impedance. It has no heat. The frequency has to match on both sides. It's completely the same, and you get no heat. You get no impedance,
well,
and it'll continue to run until it reaches a point where it does, because you're in DC frequency, and when you're in DC, as you change the frequency, you change the voltage and amperage in a system. Even if it's slightly over time, you're going to put it out of frequency with one another. It only takes 4 kilohertz to pull it out of frequency with one another. You could do it in hertz as well, but that's what's going on. You have pure resonance. It's like the reason why a spark gap goes room temperature instead of going at 240 degrees is because of the resonance inside of it. Once you create that state, it'll continue to run until you break it out of the resonant state and put it into an imbalanced state. And all it takes is a slight bit of difference when you start adjusting things, because in a DC system, your frequency goes up, your voltage goes up, but your amperage goes down. As your frequency goes down, your amperage goes up. It's a mix. So as you mix that, it changes the resonance value and changes the amplification of the resonance.
Well, the thing about being a DC system, though, a DC system is always zero frequency by definition. Okay.
Yeah.
And you may have pulsating DC in that. Okay, which might be unidirectional, but DC itself would be zero. Okay, frequency. And so resonance, there is some resonance because we're tapping into something. Okay, and it's kind of like a radio thing, because when he was separating these coils, okay, he's changing the inductance, okay, and the inductance and the capacitance, okay. So you're tuning it in, and anytime you tune a circuit, okay, You're right there's just a resonant point there. But what caused that resonant point, or what is that resonant point? We were going to try to see, but then these people come out of Canada and they told them, well, you come work with us, and we'll pay you all these millions of dollars and everything, and so he disappeared on me for. If I caught him, because he was out in the outback in Arizona, and there you have to haul your water, okay, and so it means my place is right in front of the best well in the county there because it's one of the deepest, and the water's always cold and it's very pure, and they do a good job of filtering it. So he come back there, and then he told me what was happening, okay, and so a couple of years later, they never did give him his $1 million or whatever, and they tried. He said they built bigger ones, but they kept coming across a 3-week issue, and they're trying to say it was a fraud because of it, and that's not, and that's a bunch of BS, because it's not a fraud. It's just that we don't understand what's going on with the 3-week issue, and is it like you say, the residents are getting thrown out somehow, but is it because the materials get in line to a certain point or condition to where it can no longer resonate with that, But what they do, what they do is they get you so busy you have to go make a living, and then you can't pursue this stuff, and you have no money, and so you can't really pursue it like you really need to pursue it, and that needs to be pursued because now we have I3 coming in. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with I3, but that's that new rock from Interstellar, and they're saying that it has internal energy.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. And so maybe they have the solution that we're looking for.
I have something. If you look at some of the ancient art, they always say that end of times, there's a celestial object is going to come in the center of it. It has life, a glowing thing, and it will streak across the sky at some point. It's drawn in all ancient artwork, especially like Christian artwork. It's there. I have pictures of it. If I in a little bit, if I could take it off the wall, I'll show you. And this is like depicted in all the olden maps. They would refer to it as a future celestial event. And like in Italy, I have that map. I try to decipher as much as I can, but it's called the Piscatore maps, and it gives you the whole celestial life, including the biblical events within that map. And so it's it just reminds me of that because it's glowing on the inside, so there's something active, biological, something is in it.
He's dog.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand this. We're traveling around in the universe, which means we're not stagnant in space. Our solar system is hurtling through space, and we're going to come up on the same things over and over because there's a center point to the universe, and we're going around and around it. So every time we go around and make a loop, we're going to run into the same thing. So all the biblical events that went on in the past, we're going to find in the future as well. We're just going to run through that area of space inside, this universe that we're in. And it doesn't look like we're going through it, but you're starting to see things that are coming into our solar system that shouldn't be coming in here. But it's actually put into the writing and stuff. Yeah, well, they put it in the writing. Basically, the Day of the Dead was the first time Umamamu showed up in our solar system behind the sun. And they always come in from the same angle for the same reason. Because we're hurtling through space. We're literally going around in this big thing, and we aren't realizing it.
So I just wanted to point out, too, though, that now they're saying that Voyager's encountered this giant wall of plasma flame at the edge of the solar system that encompasses all. So then it's like, how are these things getting through that, or are they coming from another direction? And what are you? Wow, that's something else, Lulu.
Okay, so this is one of the maps, and it's in, I don't know what language. I try to decipher as much as I can, and I've been for a while, and I've taken this outside to have the sun reflect on it. And it was special delivered to me, and I don't know why, out of all people, you know, and I bought all of the maps for this, and it's called the Piscatore maps. But look at it. It has the whole zodiacs, and then it has the celestial events, and it gives you when some meteors are going to come, and it depicts in it the cycle of life. And if you look here, this one in specific, I hope you can see where my finger is pointing. Do you see that? Do you guys?
Now,
Okay.
But
So that is going to come down to earth. It's an angel that has the stars around her head. It's going to create life. And you have the whole cycle. And then at one point, you have this image. Something is going to land in this map. It's somewhere in Europe. And there's a lensing effect for that. It'll happen when, I don't, in Libra, at some point in Libra. It'll have a resonance shift. The light that comes from that is going to spark something in that region. We're talking on like biblical scales, not man made, not, you know, not a government, not, but something that has been measured for eons, that this is going to occur at that moment, at that speed. They knew more than we know.
right, kind of like what's they finding at Karen Tepe and Gobekli Tepe, and
Yeah.
potentially what all the hinges were made about.
Yeah, what you guys talking about reminds me of the flyby anomaly and all these the Voyager anomalies, and they recently found. I'll show my screen right now. They recently found another anomaly that completely overturns the mainstream mathematics. Um, it's Can you see my screen?
Here we go. Sorry.
No.
Mike, where's Mike? Mike,
Yeah, we could see your screen, but
There
oh,
we
you can
go.
see my screen?
yeah.
Okay. One sec. So they predict using the Atlas. It's a huge simulator used to predict the position of comets and things like that. And they they observe some sort of comet, and the path they predict with Atlas is not at all the one that is being observed. So it completely overturns the mainstream mathematics, and that was like September 10th, very recently. Um, so yeah, so there's a lot of anomalies in the solar system, and that's one of them. But we keep sweeping them under the rug. That's what the mainstream do best. All these anomalies, they kind of say, oh, they sweep it under the rug, and they hope we forget about it. It's always the same thing, but it's very. I mean, they all add up at some point, and the mainstream mathematics is completely misleading. Um, another thing, while I'm at it, another thing I want to share is this video of the UFO here. A UFO that is being struck by a missile, but the missile is kind of deflected by a force field of the UFO. Check it out; it's really cool. A Hellfire missile. And it just bounces off or being deflected, and it's not detonating.
You know, I have a question. Why do they always assume it's a hostile entity and they start attacking it?
Sorry.
Why do they always assume it's a hostile entity and they attack it? Why is it always, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
Well,
is there any
it could
evidence
be
that
plasma, right? Like that it's a orb, but it's a AI controlled drone, and that it's essentially made by humans would be why they would be attacking it, right? So this
Yeah.
was recorded off the coast of Yemen, supposedly.
okay, if it's man-made, I can understand, but if we're thinking it's not man-made, then why are we
Listen,
attacking these things?
but I seriously doubt that it's made by China because you can see the missile is being deflected. It's pretty obvious, you know,
What?
by a force field.
But what I would ask is, why are they firing a Hellfire missile? Hellfire is from air to ground. It's not supposed to be like air to air.
Oh, the Hellfire is from a drone, right? It is air to air. I believe Hellfire is the air to air from the Hawk.
Hellfire missiles are air to ground. You know,
And don't they have like weapons on satellites that they could, you know, these high energy weapons that they can, you know, not get from the sky through a satellite? They don't even need a drone.
well, I don't know what they have up there, you know, on the satellites and that. Um, I mean, I do know, I do know that the military is about 30 years ahead on research, at least, you know, at any given time. Because like when I was an engineering, you know, graduate back in '84, you know, that's when they were showing us, you know, uh, the airborne laser, the thing that's the basis for all this hot shot stuff now. To shoot down that, I see them shoot like a an argon laser that put a hole about, I don't know, a good 2 feet in diameter through at least a 6-inch piece of aluminum that fast. You know, flip the switch and boom. You know, I just see nothing but molten metal drop down. You know, and this is back in '84. You know, and so you can imagine what they have now. This is they're showing us in the back rooms of the Air Force Academy how they were doing voice commands to the computers and that. And this is back in '84, long before they had like Dragon Speak and everything. You know, it's the basis for Dragon Speak. So there's no telling what they got. You know.
Well, I know they don't have everything yet, but I know they have reverse engineer a lot of UFOs, obviously, so they can replicate their technologies. But they don't have their mathematics, so they cannot extrapolate or extend the laws to create other type of technologies. You know what I mean? At best, I think the military is as confused as the civilians are regarding the mainstream physics. Um, they 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 still think that the mainstream is the way to go and things like that, but they can't. Maybe they did reverse engineer the UFOs, but they don't link the two with mathematics. You know what I mean?
What if they're disturbing the atmosphere energy, and then these things become visible to us because we're disrupting their frequency, like we are
Yeah,
pumping
I think you're right, Lulu.
Yeah, that could well be.
electromagnetic waves, so
Yeah.
we see
It's
them for
essentially
like
like
a
ball
glimpse.
lightning, right? Essentially, they're
Well,
like ball lightning, so that's a good possibility.
I mean, what if
don't
they
forget,
already always existed there, but we just
don't
can't,
for,
you know?
don't forget that our visible spectrum is very small for our bodies, right? and there's a lot of the spectrum that we cannot see. So I think in certain conditions and certain times, there'll be this ripple, and these things will manifest into reality that we never knew were there, but they were there all the time because our eyes cannot pick this stuff up. So I think you're right, Lou.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole electromagnetic, detection. This is all new. You know, like it's not something. Let's say in the modern day, so it's not something they understood when they started. Testing for energies. Now we're detecting it through modern day machinery, like our sensors. But before
Yeah,
they just theoretically wrote equations about it, but now we're actually seeing it. Like we're actually
yeah,
have the technology to be able to disrupt that field and take a glimpse in it. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And while I'm at it, I just want to share also the something else really cool. It's a high voltage capacitor bank that goes up
Ooh.
to 1,000 volts, 10,000 volts. Sorry. So check it out. It's really cool.
Nice.
That's a watermelon right here. That
Yeah, I seen that today.
yeah,
Vaporized the mellow
That,
watermelon.
that's not just fried watermelon. That's straight vaped. That's how you get your vaped watermelon.
That's pretty cool.
but I want to do something similar, but like a high voltage capacitor with. Ideally, I would have a high voltage capacitor with a discharge, instantaneous discharge. It needs to be very fast, and that should create anti-gravity force, like that should create the levitation force between the parallel plates. Not with the metallic object with di non with a diamagnetic element. There's something that is not magnetic or doesn't conduct electricity or anything like that, um, like rubber or something like that. The rubber, I can guarantee you that the rubber is gonna levitate within the capacitor plates with that type of that amount of energy. So that's gonna be my next experiment, but obviously it's gonna take a little bit of time because I need to buy. Well, I was looking for capacitors and it's like $500 minimum. It's pretty expensive. But I need to build it. But my local buddy is gonna help me out with that. So that I don't get electrified or anything like that.
Very
He's a
good.
Good
lab.
idea.
Yeah, he's a lab
Maybe
expert.
Phil,
Guys,
maybe go
guys,
to like the police repo auctions for like capacitors to get like car audio capacitors for cheap, maybe, right?
Um,
Yeah. You got some big one. I guess that's not that big though. You need larger.
see these
Yeah.
glasses here?
I've heard of
It's-
something called surplus stuff. Like they
yeah,
have.
there's one in Montreal, but it's just for physical equipment. They don't have like electronics equipment, just for camping and things like that. You know what I
just
mean?
to Lulu, you were talking about seeing the UFOs and stuff. Apparently, these Dicenian glasses allows you to see UFOs a lot better at nighttime. And I found these glasses. It uses that special blue. There's another name for it.
Cobalt style or something.
Cobalt. Yeah, the cobalt glasses. Well, these are them. They're making them. They're called Dicenian glasses. So
Yeah,
if you
you
wear
got to
these,
be careful though, Mike. Not all of them are like good dicyanin.
right?
There's,
Yeah, you got to
there's
get
like one or two places only that have real dicyanin to smash in between two pieces of glass and get you the good optical effects.
yeah.
But yeah, those things are
That's like anything too, right? You know, the old night vision that they used back in I believe it was Vietnam.
Yeah, it was Vietnam.
They were red, and
they
these
supposedly
soldiers,
saw demons, right?
yeah, it's like
Interesting how-
dragons and stuff, and yeah, some really freaky stuff. So that's when they changed the light spectrum to green. So,
Right, I find that so interesting that because infrared being on one side of our visible light spectrum and supposedly them seeing demons, and then also on the blue side, the ultraviolet, and that's where supposedly you see auras and apparently like angelic or spiritual beings and stuff, right? So it's like, is this why demons or the devil's always like painted in red and like angels kind of in blue? It's very fascinating. Very
Well,
fascinating.
could well be a spectrum bandwidth situation, like we were talking about earlier on the show with Nathan. You know how very possible that just like not here but there, but here at the same time, sort of deal. Like just slightly out of phase.
Could you imagine if we actually can exist on these different frequency bands or these different frequency spectrums? It's like we're editing time because some of them are higher, so time flows faster. Some of them are, so it's a constant shift between whatever, what time is.
Well, I mean, I think I
It's
raised the question, who's to say that we don't
Yeah.
already, just natively?
Yeah.
Where is the mind? Is it here in this experience bandwidth, or is it somewhere else?
Or both simultaneously.
Maybe that's how come they come out with crypto. Put it somewhere else.
What if it's that spectrum emission of the aura that tells like how many layers and depth of, that whatever frequency line it possibly could be as well? I don't know. I mean, just it's like an
Well, if you
echo
think
effect.
about it, you have 7 chakras, right? The colors of the rainbow, are in prismatic alignment with the colors of the chakras. Each chakra is a nodal point of a specific frequency band, and therefore, like you could surmise to a certain degree that there's probably a frequency band that exists, in resonance and coherence with that light that is probably aligned with that particular, nodal path. And these are all individual systems that work in unison, but also work independent of one another. So something
like that movie National Treasure, where they have those glasses and they flip between the different spectrums.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to have all 3 of them to see it right. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Great reference.
what was that other movie? And They Live back in the 80s.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, They Live. Yeah, he had the glasses on, and then everybody turned aliens when they put the glasses on.
Right. Yes.
Oh, Visitors?
That was with Roddy Piper, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was with Roddy Piper. Yeah, the wrestler. Yeah.
Joe and Nathan, now that we have you, and do you want to maybe just go a little bit into what you're talking about in your stream before this about the black lights and like what happens when you're pulling energy out of the other side?
Let me grab it real quick, and I will show you Joe's video because it's kind of epic.
Exactly. It is pretty epic. It seems like tapping into the upside down.
Crystal clear, double terminated. Little electrolyte solution on the stone and on top of the quartz. 14 volts. 17. Oh boy. Wow. Okay, that's cool.
So that's normally what you see with high voltage experiments is going around it. Watch the color in it change.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it gets way, way better.
You're doing some dark crystalness action here almost.
Now,
This is like going into the ultraviolet.
under Rav.
Can we see?
Did you see it, Bernie?
Isn't that funny, like you were saying?
And then, but just wait, there's more.
Yeah. But wait,
30,
there's
it goes off.
There's so much more. Whoa.
It was going through. Now it's on it. So what's going on here? Let's go ahead and turn it up a little. Oh, look, the RAV is inside the quartz.
No, it's not.
Not yet. It's getting there.
Not yet.
Is that like trapping light when it goes through it and it just stays there, like it resonates in the crystal? It's like
not light,
trapping
Lulu.
light.
Modulating the voltage.
Not light. Like
Straight to the
legit
inside.
plasma.
Yep, there it goes.
Plasma.
It's inside the quartz.
You can see by the color. Remember in the beginning, it was real light.
Yeah,
it really-
it changed it.
Yeah, it's illuminating the actual crystal itself.
Yeah, it's doing its ionic tunneling, so it's creating a deposition tunnel in it, and that's what it's going to use to form the RAV inside of it. But you'll see.
It goes.
It's only at 33 volts right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to blow up my circuit at this point. That's why I'm kind of drawing it back every so often.
Let's go ahead and turn it up a little.
Reasonable.
There, it's starting to ignite.
Forms the RAV
Come on.
on the side.
There we go.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
baby.
Now it's tunneling. Yeah.
It's inside.
It's getting there.
Now you see how bright it gets?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that.
You can tell the lights on the inside of it now. It gets better.
And drop the voltage.
Is there any carbon
overpowering.
inside that quartz?
No,
There
it's
is
pure,
no-
man. Pure silica. Oh, there we go. Uh huh.
Making kryptonite.
Right, and
It's in.
Oh, broke the quartz.
Wow.
Oh
Just smoked
no.
it. Vaporized it.
Yeah.
great dark crystal right there.
So did you measure like how high it got? Like, energy, like capacitance?
That's for round 2.
So what's going on here is that it's trying to it's trying to create an ionic deposition inside of the quartz. All right, it's actually trying to throw ions from the anode and the atmosphere into the quartz because that doesn't really care that it's a solid. It wants to bury those into the lattice structure. Now, if allowed to do that all the way to the end, it'll allow that RAV to grow on the inside. Now, in this particular case, I do not have a stainless steel or high carbon steel anode. Okay, so it doesn't really have a lot of carbon to strip off. It's copper. So that carbon deposition goes slow. It was trying to put it through the whole entire time, building the RAV on the side, and then it found its way into basically any superficial crack that is inside of it. That's where it started to deposit. That's when it started to build in the center. Except here's the thing. The system isn't in resonance with the quartz. So once the RAV came into equilibrium inside of it, it blew it into pieces each time. So every time it would go into the lattice structure, create the RAV inside of it fully, it would blow the lattice apart. Now, here's the thing. How long was that anode cooking on this thing for? Right? 3 minutes. All right. I immediately turned off the reaction as soon as the last piece blew up. I picked up that big piece, or one of the ones that flew onto the table, not into the water, and it was room temperature plus maybe 5 or 10 degrees.
So, Mike, real quick for reference, can you put up the other picture for me? I just want to show you. So what is a RAV? You basically see it right there. This is like a anode to cathode relationship. It's like the spark gap. But what you're seeing here is you're seeing a plasma sphere build. And in the picture reflection, you're seeing right there the rings that go around it. Now, I mentioned that because we do testing on it for temperature, and the rings themselves look just like the picture you see behind it when you pull it out. And there'll be a temperature differential from anywhere from, say, 70 Fahrenheit to 250 Fahrenheit in the center. So it's building out in resonance rings, and we checked it, and we saw that each ring that it builds out has a frequency to it. So we had one at 92 kilohertz, one at 96 kilohertz, and one at 100 kilohertz. And each one of them were plasma layers as they built out. So what you're getting is plasma layer, null zone, plasma layer, null zone. And this right here is just it's like the camera effect on what it's actually doing inside of it. But we verify that with the temperature one as well. We put the camera on it, the thermal cam. And then we also verified it with the frequency generator or our O-scope. And we made a special device where you could see the actual RPM of it, of each one of them going around in the spherical form. And also you could pick out the frequencies in each one in resonance. And they're building out in layers, and it's self-organizing. It's not something that we have to do. It's just organizing itself based on the way it's built out. And you'll see that little dot that's sitting right there from the anode. Right there, you see the big one, and you see the little one. That actually looks like a physical form when you look at it right there, but it's not. It's pure plasma. So what's going on is the both pieces pulled apart like two embryos pulling apart, and it sits there, and it's just plasma itself. But as soon as the main reaction is turned off, it sucks right back into it. But you can see in the reflection behind it that you'll see the little spot pick up right in the ring, right as the ring's built out, which tells you where it is in the system. So this right here is the RAV that we're talking about. And what Joe's building inside the quartz itself is this structure here. And it's also pulsing. For those of you, looking at it, it's going in and out. So what that's doing is it's creating a vacuum inside of it. So as it creates a vacuum inside by the pulsing right there, it creates all the zones. So we've been looking into this for a while. We're writing a paper on it, on exactly what's going on here. But it's important to know that this is what's going on inside of Joe's
yeah, right.
court.
So just real quick. So this whole entire thing, right? And the way that Nathan does it is right now different than the way that Sean does it. And it's different than the way that I just decided one day to pick up and do it. The reason is because we understand fully and wholly how it works. It works off of a separation of differentials. Okay, so on one side you have a focused anode of one charge state. On the other side, you have a diffuse cathode that in the opposite charge state. So you're separating all these differentials, and then you're bringing them into a mutual relationship by use of a membrane. In this case, the membrane is the rock, not the quartz. The quartz is actually standing in the way of the membrane reaction, because the membrane is sitting inside of a solution that's holding the charge for the cathode, and the moisture level in it actually gives it the charge differential. So one draws to the next, pulling one out of the other. Each configuration does something slightly different, but once you realize that there's an anode cathode relationship with separation of differentials, you realize that it doesn't have to necessarily be something like positive and negative that are your only differentials that it could be utilized to create the same effect. It could be any differential, frankly. It could be pressure, it could be heat, it could be, in this particular case, no matter how fringe it is and how you want to define it, this isn't a positive negative relationship. It's an external field, internal field relationship. Because how I achieved this was by using the center energy out of the Tesla coil as the cathode. and that is not the same as a negative lead, you see, because it does not create electrolysis. So, it's interesting effects going on here.
I'm sorry, I just had to bring up the parallels of how those lines of plasma formed out and the similarities between Walter Russell's anode cathode diagram there.
And you see how that's inverse? That's exactly what we propose is going on the reverse side, on the cathodic side. Now, Nathan made a good point earlier today, and that's that in his experimentation and what we've observed as well, is that once the tunneling is complete, the tunneling leads to a high efficiency of the anode cathode relationship. So it allows a channel for the interaction and the hydrogen plasma formation to occur intermedia in Sean's example. But what Nathan realized is that the carbon deposition that occurs, the ionic carbon deposition that occurs in the porosity of the membrane, it has a multi-layered effect. You have a CME effect that's occurring on the anodic side at the uppermost layers. You're also having the ionic carbon deposition in those pores, okay, which are probably forming a lattice structure, I would assume. I have not seen it close up enough to be able to verify that, but I think that's a fairly safe assumption.
By the way, this is a temperature thing right here, and we're looking through the thermocam. As you can see, the inside's hot, and then the outside gets cooler, but they're in perfect rings. So,
right, and it's non-diffuse. That's a non-diffuse state. And when Nathan said before about null zones in between, I mean, that's just a choice of words. I mean, I don't agree that it's null zones in between. It's torsion. It's a torsion of differentials that's occurring, and it's that torsion that's keeping it separate.
Because it's just like the hydrogen wave function. And
exactly. Yeah.
like I've been saying with my reinterpretation of the double slit experiment, that a particle is made up of nested standing waves of fields, and that's exactly what we're seeing here, and that's exactly what you're seeing with your
Hold that
work.
up, though, Bernie. Hold that up for a second, because what I want go back a couple of images, because I want to actually bring something up about the RAV in context of that image.
This one. That
one
has the
before that,
positives and the negatives.
This is fine. This is fine. Perfect. Okay. 0, 0. That's what you see. That's the RAV. Okay. 1, 0. That's more or less actually what it is. Okay. It's an external plasma field and an internal plasma field. Okay. But then when you break it down further, that also has a null zone in the center, which is 20. Now, when you look at it thermally, it looks like 30. Okay. When you look at it externally, as far as what the light emission is, okay, it breaks out into zones, and they'll either break out into a zone of O1 during formation, O2 during running operation. Okay.
And exactly.
Patterns like 22.
That's how a lattice fractures out when you're in that dimension, or it's like then otherwise it's nested when it's stable, right? So it's one or the other as it builds out, and how
right. So now so each one of these particular geometric formations are actually present at different life phases, so to speak, of the RAV formation, in different regards. The top being geometry of the build out, the middle being the light emissions that you're actually visibly able to see, because there's clear zoning both during formation but also during running. And some of the zoning that we get and some of the emissions that we get while it's running are high strangeness. They're patterned like that, but they're high strangeness.
So how many orbitals does it have?
The hydrogen. What's the picture I sent you, Bernie? Sorry.
Put up this.
How many orbitals does it have? It has a center vacuum. It has a center plasma. it has an outer shell plasma, and then it has an outer magnetic component. That's sort of what it has.
So that we were creating
Well, yeah,
nodes
some of that.
between an anode and a cathode. So we were creating what you were just looking at on your picture, Bernie,
Absolutely.
right there.
100%.
I can create those in 2 parts and 4 parts and 6 parts, all of them with the anode cathode relationship.
Yep.
That's why I call it a null point, because you see the black lines in there. That's where all the energy is. It just won't let it escape.
Yeah, it splits and zones out. Then when the density levels get high enough, or in some cases, if the hydrogen gets choked from in Sean's example, or the moisture levels dump out, then it chases to combine. And what you end up seeing is that you get this parabolic sweep of the positive anodic plasma that occurs. And I have multiple photographs of it. It literally starts to lift up and then sweep over like that, and the inside gets fully enrobed at that point. That parabolic sweep is the magnetism kicking in, because there's a rotational vector that acts as a magnetic component. Okay, from the get-go, that's how it starts to chase. Once that chase goes on long enough, that magnetic component grows into a field, collapses to a vortex, but that vortex ends up pinches the vortex when it goes parabolic, and then collapses into a torus. You get your poles, but then you also have your 2 inner poles collapse. That creates your center geometry of the torus. And it becomes in a locked position because the poles act opposite.
Yeah, I gotta just
Yeah.
address shout out to Vortex and his question, though. It's because that it goes back to Dr. Yu and him explaining the fundamental difference of what an electron actually is, and it's not an electron rotating around the center atom. And in fact, as we're seeing here in the hydrogen light wave functions, that it's these nested fields of energy that is where they build out from in the specific dimensions of the valence shells. And that is why it's atomic orbital and, or, nested ring, the field, whatever you want to call it. But this is what you're actually looking at. These are images from electron microscopes at the hydrogen wave function, right? So
Right. And you see it macroscopically, specifically in Sean's in his early testing, before he had a primed sample to build it on. Those would sit there and spin and spin and spin. You could really dissect how it builds off of those early samples that he had. Because once you actually get that ionic carbon channel, okay, provided that you're in proximity to that channel, it'll always jump to build on that channel. And it becomes like thunderstorm generator in the sense, although who knows the legitimacy, I don't want to bring that up, doesn't really matter. They were saying how it wasn't hooked up, but still held the charge for a certain period of time. Very similar circumstance to that, where these kick on almost immediately at a certain power level once you have your substrate primed. So where does it go? You know what I mean? When you turn it off, where does it go? Well, it might be it actually may be held in the material. I know that sounds really out there and weird, but there's a possibility that that's the case.
Bob Greenyer, I believe it is he brings up this charged neutrino aspect too, and that he believes it's in the substrate of space-time, essentially, that the charge density remains, or differential
Dead
remains.
on. So here's the thing about the cavitation that's going on, and Sean's again demonstrates this the best. I personally believe that we're looking at a 4D object that's actually moving in and out of 3D space-time between a fourth spatial dimension. That's what I believe. I know people have said that's hard to believe, but that would actually explain the expansion and contraction of the cavitation. And the internal geometries is that it's an upper dimensional object. And that would also explain a lot of the anomalies that we've seen, as well. Many of the anomalies, not just one. Never bank on one thing. But when you see enough things that are consistent with the theory, it starts to become high strangeness.
I wanted to show you that curve that Joe was talking about. If you throw that next one up, not that one, the other one. It actually looks like what's in your brain.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Look at that.
It's
That's
just
pretty
upside
wild.
down and turned the other way. Sorry, I should have fixed that.
Yeah. So we get this switching effect. Whoosh. Yeah, and that's the thing in full chase right there. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's when it's starting to structure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it also it goes to your thing about the spark gap. What's going on inside of it? We're seeing this in anode cathode relationship. This is a plasmoid building out in its full structure, but it doesn't have to be everything. If you lessen it a little bit, it's what's going on in your spark gap, because you know what I mean. It's doing close to the same thing. It's creating resonance points in there.
What is that? The image of a brain, or is it like a plasma ball?
No, it's like what's in your brain, that pineal gland, I guess they call it.
the,
And
The pineal
going
gland.
down,
Okay, the pineal
pineal
gland.
gland going down into the rest of the spinal column there, and it's like, right? Are you really tapping into another dimension and pulling out energy? And that's what it looks like when we're doing it. And when you have these parallels repeating themselves, you just can't help but suspect, like, that's wild.
Well, I mean, once you understand that, I mean, I've said it for a very, very long time. Hydrogen is energy like matter, and plasma is matter like energy. Okay. At these density levels, it becomes wildly apparent, because what you end up seeing is that all of this plasma, mind you, not vacuum plasma, in air atmospheric pressure, plasma acting like liquid. Okay. Continuously acting like liquid. And that's exactly what the observation is. And any sort of hydrodynamics applied to how you want to manipulate this plasma, as far as I can tell.
It's funny because there's the cerebral fluid, which could, somehow echo energy impulses in the brain neurons. With the brain, if you look at it, that's cerebral fluid.
Yeah, cerebral spinal fluid. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
that's the carrier. Yeah, it's a carrier medium. Sure.
so we got the plasma to a state where it's almost matter. And you see it in a rope form right here. You see on the clay, we're starting to create the rav, but you see it looks like a string on there, and it's actually plasma building out.
What?
And
that's wild.
Yeah, it's almost like if you get it cold enough, or you do something next, or get a higher form of it, you'll get it to be solid state.
Into a solid. That's whoa.
Now, I don't want to make claims, but I know that it's been an observation of Nathan and Sean's as well as my own at this point. So 3 ways, 3 different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a potential at this time that even under the current conditions, that it has weak transmutive properties. The channeling events that occur are seeming to be open ground for the accumulation of shit that just simply wasn't there previously. Okay, so that's sort of been what we're seeing. There's definitely metallic specks and flakes built right in. At a certain point. Yeah.
By the way, when he turns that off, that little worm or string or whatever you want to call it sucks right back up into the anode.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if you can get it into like a liquid or maybe mercury or gallium, but even try water first to see if that might be able to solidify it. But that's crazy how it goes, sucks right back in.
Well, I think it's temperature. I think we can get this thing super cooled quickly. It'll become solid right there.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like, have some
It's like the sun throwing off plasma, but then it hits the cold space, and then it solidifies. And the
liquid
thing
nitrogen.
is, we may be seeing that in the transmutation that goes on with the carbon that's going on already. We don't think of carbon that way, but it could very well be that you're building out matter in that carbon because it's added on top of the clay.
That's a good point. And even with the quartz, I've already surmised.
Right? Essentially.
Well, we could get rid of the cathode once the carbon's built. You don't need the cathode anymore. I'll just start this thing without it.
Yeah, that's the point that I was making before about the deposition in there.
Yeah, essentially that the clay takes the position of the cathode when you remove the cathode, and that's where you'd expect deposition.
But it's specifically the structure of the carbon because of the chambers inside of it. You're getting a chamber effect. You're getting resonance within there that's creating the cathode. It's a cavitation event, is what's going on inside that carbon.
Mm-hmm. Now, it is worth noting that although we don't really have the data on it to specify at this point, but removing the cathode altogether, will yield probably an ultimately different effect. As far as like what it is and usage.
Yeah, I got some ideas to discuss with you guys offline about that, but do continue on, just make a note of that.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, so there's more than one way to skin this cat, and you kind of get something a little bit different every time, but the result is fairly.
No skinning cats.
But if I were to somehow be able to get a carbon deposit into the center of that quartz, it would form in there without issue. Just so you know, it would throw that carbon into resonance, and then it would form up.
So this is what I mean. I don't need the cathode. I turn it into a secondary anode, and I make two of them.
Yep.
Yes.
I can do them on. I do them on the same piece of clay. You know what I mean? Or different pieces of clay. I could take out the water on the bottom. As long as I form that carbon structure, I have it. And you can see one's bigger than the other, but then they pulse back and forth because they're in the same system. And it shoots out, and I'm not exaggerating here. It's like a laser shooting out at you. You literally get LASIK as you're standing there looking at this thing, man. It's messing with the optics in your eyes. You leave with dark spots and everything else. These things are so bright.
Now, Nathans are leaky, like the way that they are, and the way, right? So they put out like a lot of external light. Now, here's the craziness of it. Okay, it's been a great thing to understand pretty much what's going on inside of these, to have these leaky ones, including mine. Mine's leaky too and small. But Sean's, on the other hand, does not leak.
Shout out Sean.
Yeah, but here's the thing about it not leaking. That's how you want it, but there's not much to observe to understand what's going on with it based on that. There was a lot of summations that I made after lots of careful analysis about the pulsing and the rhythms and stuff like that, but really you couldn't tell what's going on. As soon as Nathan started spitting out, you start to realize that no, there is coherent laser light by virtue of a more or less a virtual cashmere effect going on in this. It runs transaxial, of the anode and cathode, and it actually has a very specific, frequency coherent light that will appear, at the rim only of the plate or pan or whatever it is that he's using. You do not see it emit otherwise. And the colors have been red, blue, green, gold, and white in that case. And that's not a lens trick or nothing crazy like that. That's just exactly what it is. It even moves like, like how lasers move, how it does the particle dance.
So check this out. In this one picture, I just want to show you one thing. When you look at the green on the bottom, look right up from it, you'll see the purple. Okay.
Mhm.
That's actually plasma sitting there.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
It's created inside of that structure, which we see as a camera effect, but is it really? And that's what Joe's getting at here, because there's plasma inside of it. Why we're creating a RAV, why we're creating darkness. We see the darkness all over this thing. There's no darkness there. That's actually the light built out, covering it up. That thing is clean. There's no silt on it, nothing, man, on that piece of clay. It's just interesting the stuff that comes out of this thing. And we blocked off all the light behind it from the shiny tray, put tape over it, and did everything we could, man, to show this thing in a different way to see if this lens effect would go away. And it only made it better.
So with the lens effect and the lens flare, my conclusion of this is rather interesting, I think, and that's that I don't think that we understand lens flares properly by and large. See, because they only occur when a light source of emission is in frame of the lens itself. That's the only time that they play any sort of role whatsoever. And from a photography standpoint, it's either a cool and novel effect or an undesired situation. So the science to tackle that has been either to eliminate it or accentuate it, right? And then from just a general sensor standpoint, that's an artifact, and they want to do away with artifacts. But have we ever contemplated that since it's from the light source and the reaction of the light source with the lens, what that lens flare actually says about the light source itself, since it has to be in frame in order for it to occur? And what I'm actually currently doing is working to map out the geometries of the convex lens and all the points of the light source in conjunction with that of the lens flare, and then basically create a 2D hologram, by the interference patterns created by the concentric circles of these multiple, point placements. And what that should actually do is draw a correlation between the convexivity of the lens, the light source, and the lens flare that we're able to observe. And then we could further understand how then a lens flare could be used as a tool to understand the geometry of something that you could otherwise never see.
And I'll show you that real quick. I have it pulled up. There you go. You can see every point where the ring goes out, because this thing's building out in scalar. So we're building out in rings of energy with a temperature differential and a frequency differential. And you can see every time it coincides with the light effect that you see in the camera, that there's some kind of thing that's an explosion going on or an implosion going on every single level. So it's interesting to note that's what Joe's talking about. He's going to map all this stuff out and see what we come up with in order to see everything that we want to.
Yeah, because I believe that the lens flare, in not only the RAV's case, but also if you get it off the sun, or if you get it off of an LED bulb, or you get it wherever you get it off of, right? I think that geometry of the particular lens flare could actually be mapped out, utilized to understand the geometry of the light emission source itself. And that's what I'm trying to
Could it be
uncrack here, as
also
if we're not simultaneously trying to figure out cold fusion, but
could it be also
you know,
the curvature of the camera, the lens
course it is.
also plays a role?
Without a
in-
doubt.
Yeah, so
Okay, so like I said, Lulu, this is a 1-point display that Nathan's showing. Okay, the idea here is a little different, right? You want to center one of the rings. Okay, then you want to put the center point of another ring on top of the emission source in the center of that, and then match up the geometry of the emission with the flare, which exists. We have it all captured, and match that up. And what that's going to create is 3 pebbles in a pond, and those 3 pebbles in a pond is enough to triangulate and bring the 2-dimensional flat plane of the photo of the sensor and the concentric rings into an upper dimensional geometry that then could be understood.
Mhm.
So that's that's what the goal there is.
So
it's taking into account the convexivity of the lens.
Wanted to show you real quick. This right here. So we're building out the RAV. Oh, sorry. Let me rewind it a little bit. Here's what you see it is before the thing is actually formed. And then as soon as it starts to form, you're going to watch either right there. It goes in perfect resonance on each one of the layers that builds out.
Alpha goes silent when that happens.
Sorry, I turned off the volume because
I know that, but in reality, it goes silent when that happens.
Yeah, so you see the RAV there, and in the beginning, we're trying to form the RAV, and you see it all over the place, and then boom, it automatically hit. And we have the frequencies off of this, and you see the amplitudes of it. Yeah, we've got this thing pretty much hitting from all sides, man. You can see here it is playing again. You see it's all shaky and everything.
Right. That's it zoning. That's it building its density and zoning out and trying to make that tunnel.
And then it gets in clear, perfect resonance as soon as it's formed. And this is, I forget the name of the device Sean created in order to pick up all this sensory data here.
A photo harp, like a park.
But there you go. The perfect resonance within each structure.
And the crazy thing about it is, as you would expect, it is infinitesimally small. Like it's 1 pixel on the O-scope out of phase, each line.
So interesting how this thing's actually come together. And like I said, you can see it self-organizing. You see it's just a spray of plasma sitting out there, and then it organizes itself into that plasmoid, which you can see is a perfect sphere.
Can we say FCC? Anybody?
Right? That's how it's good chuckle. It's broadband emission.
They're screwing up all the tests.
It looks like a solid at this point, huh? If you can transform the energy into a solid, then you're the man.
Well, we're real close to get the energy into a solid. We figure some things out. We've got resonance in this thing, man, which is the key factor that every single theory misses. And we have it in spades in this thing, man. We have the temperature differential in there. We have the plasma. We have created cavitation in the carbon structure underneath. It proves out a lot of theories and what's going on. And when we look at the actual carbon, when we get it tested, we may see also some transmutational value in that. And it's basically telling us right now that where we're right now trying to take very big magnets and push plasma in to create energy, maybe letting it form naturally like this between an anode and cathode effect might be the way to go. And
self-structuring is always going to be the way, Nathan. Definitely.
But also, if we could put coils next to this that have the same exact value that are in each resonance portion, can we pull energy out of this just by running it? You see, that's one of the things that I could do out of my Tesla coils all day long. I could create a pillar coil that starts it. I can take one that's just a winding of a number 2 coil, and I could put more energy in that winding of that number 2 coil than my primary coil. I quantumly entangle these things. That's exactly what we're looking to do with this RAV, 2 other coils. So the energy system to pull out may just be wireless. It may just be creating the correct transformer in order to pull it out at the resonance value that it's in.
Yep.
And we have a very clear understanding of this. So, but also you may get a plasma value out of it. You may get some other things, some heat values out of it. And if you understand how to transfer energy, all of it accumulates into something good. That's going to be one of the things that we have to learn throughout this whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The separation of these differentials is key. Keeping them separate based on their own equilibrium and combination at their own accord is major. And once you realize that the thing that everybody struggles to not only understand sometimes but accomplish is getting all the modes of electromagnetic energy into asymmetric equilibrium, and have them all present and separate and working with one another is the key to these hyper efficiencies. It's exactly what this is doing. And it has to have all the components. So electromagnetic vectoring, and energy vectoring is the key. And if you want to know something, this original experiment was something that Sean had found, but was not a reliable experiment. Okay. It was not a reliable, he was not able to, the person that wrote about this particular experiment was not able to get this result. There had to be several factors changed once you understood that you needed all the vectors. And one of the critical changes and components is the fact that there has to be a mild magnetic component on the anode. It still needs to remain a current, but it needs to have at least a small rotational vector to it at the onset, sort of like throwing a curveball, right? You got to put a little backspin on it so it so it does that, right? And that's it. The ball's still going straight.
That secret. It's very crucial in a lot of my work as well.
Right. So the ball's still going straight with a curveball, but that backspin gives it a whole nother attribute. And that's the critical thing too.
With saying that, put up that last one, Bernie, and I just want to show this. This is the worm that comes out of this. But Joe, when y'all want to explain exactly what that is? See on your bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you're just going to see that little worm.
Yeah, that worm. It almost looks like a smoke worm, but it's something so much more.
Yeah, so this is one of the high strangeness attributes of this. So I call him the ghost worm. He jumped out of the 1 o'clock quadrant of the RAV, or 2 o'clock quadrant of the RAV. Yep, you see it, and he goes right back into that same quadrant. Well, why? What is it and why? Well, if you notice, this particular RAV has a satellite that Nathan was talking about earlier. All right, that satellite is actually locked in position to the RAV. As the RAV moves around, it stays equidistant from the RAV, kind of like a moon that doesn't orbit us or whatever. It's like a fixed moon. Well, like a fixed moon would be, and our tides, right? It actually pulls at the outermost layer of plasma on the RAV, creating a thick spot on that side that it's on, and therefore a thin spot on the other side. This creates an asymmetric center torsion relationship, and that creates compression and spiraling of the plasmatic filaments in the inner geometries of the plasma. Now, as that further compresses and compresses through that asymmetric torsion, the ability of the RAV's outer shell to also hold in that extra pressure is compromised due to the thinning on the opposite side of that satellite, which causes the pink defect, which is what that worm is, to pop out of that side. Okay, but here's the thing. It's out of there, but it's also not at the same time. It maintains a total and complete relationship to the inner geometries at all times.
Mhm.
And that's why it jumps back in. And where does it jump back in? Right where it came out. Why? Because that's the thin spot. That's the place for it to go.
So I just want to point out we're getting the satellite as the anomaly here, and we're getting this coming out of there because Sean put a magnet around this thing. And what they get in fusion experiments is they hold it in with a high magnetic field. And when you get the high magnetic fields, you get anomalies like the little tiny guy you see there. When you get that, then you get the worm. You get that effect that comes out when you're getting into fusion.
It is this is a phenomena that is constantly observed in the precursor to fusion reactions. Absolutely correct. So
It's the
both
fusion
of
plasma
these.
worm. The carrier wave.
And by the way, for don't focus on the lens flare thing. If you notice, there's the satellite in the lens flare as well, and it's mirrored. And if you know anything about sensors and mirroring, why is it mirrored when the sensor's on the inside of the reflection? So go to bed and ask yourself that question.
Do you think an entity came out of that center and then it just? I mean, the thing looked alive. Whatever whatever. However you want to.
Thought could be
plasma acts alive.
It could, right?
EVO. Maybe it's an EVO.
That thing looked alive. No matter how it stood there. It was like a standing energy wave. Just
All right. I'm gonna say something I really haven't talked about too much. I did the photo analysis on this as far as all the levels are concerned, and in adjusting the levels, what I realized about the worm guy is that it acts in relationship to the matter in the environment and not that of the plasma. It looks solid, and its lighting features and such are that of the environment as well. In fact, you could see a shadow cast on it at a certain point directly through the inner spiral. Yep.
Guys, we're getting close to the top of the hour. We're going to start winding things down here.
That was an epic.
Well, I just, if you don't mind, I just want to say this. That worm reminds me just like that string we were talking about for the plasma. It forms,
big time.
It builds out, and then it pulls back in and goes back into a plasma state. So that's the way I saw it. Is it comes out just like that string thing did. It looks like a stream of plasma. It sits on the side, and then it sucks right back into it.
Just like that.
I just want to ask Mr. Phillip, do you have anything you want to show us before we square up tonight?
Well, no, I already shown what I wanted to show.
We should have Steve show Tesla Tech and why y'all should come to Tesla Tech 2026, right? Because it was pretty epic. Because you get to have sit-down interviews with the likes of like Dr. Yu and Dave and me and Julie and Kate and maybe even Steve if you stay an extra day or two.
Yeah, definitely. And Lulu, she's gonna have a nice weekend too, huh, Lulu?
Yeah, I'm going to that UNT the class summit for space, land, sea, and air in Dallas.
Amazing.
Tomorrow, like I have to be there at 8:30 in the morning, and
Oh wow, tomorrow
yeah,
morning.
it's only 3.5 hour drive, so it's not too bad, Yeah.
You know, have to wake up early if it starts at 8:30.
Yeah. So yeah,
At 5.
I'll take pictures and I'll share and I'll write things, whatever, for you
Very cool.
guys. If it was if it was today, I would have done like a little bit of a live video, but I'll have some stuff for you guys for next week.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you can take pictures of military stuff, but at least try to get contacts and things like that.
absolutely. And I like nobody can say no to me. I'm kind of nice, like I asked them for the weirdest things and they just give it to me. I'm like, okay, thank you. So it works,
Yeah.
It's that southern charm, right?
I don't know. I think it's more of being genuine, not like really being genuine. I mean, I want it for stuff we're doing. It's not like, I don't know. I think it you could tell by a person when they're asking something for good or bad, Yeah. So I don't know why I got this invitation. I must have done something good. Thanks to all of y'all. But yeah, so
You are on their radar,
I am on their radar.
now.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. This is the purpose of what we're doing. We want to be on the radar. It's not like we don't want to be on the radar. Then what's the purpose of it, right?
Just don't get kidnapped into a dark program, right?
No.
Stay away
this
from
is-
the black light.
Like
Yeah.
if anything, if anything, I want to say, you know what? We want to patent what we're doing that cannot be used on the planet or the planet's orbit or the moon. This has got to be in deep space. And so we hold the rights, because then we know for a fact it's going to be, it's going to do good and not bad, So it's just something.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, my interest is interstellar travel. And, I want to bypass the idea of what light year, and from point A to point B is. They, the government and all the other, countries, and they want to use it as a weapon. It's like, dude, that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is for us to, explore other things, not to use it as a combustible means of, vaporizing each other. So that's why the whole idea, it's like, okay, we want to hold the patent, like you cannot use it on the planet. It has to be out of the planet. You want to develop it, can't use it on here.
I'd like to plug one of our viewers did a documentary, and Lulu, I think this would actually you'd find interest in this. Our viewer, Dead Fish Cheese Spread.
Yeah.
Okay. DeadEhish cheese spread. Okay. Has an awesome UFO encounter documentary that he brings his own account in with all the compilation of people talking about the same exact phenomena that he personally experienced. And it has to do with UFOs, propulsion, interstellar and interdimensional potentially travel. And one of the huge things that he was telling you, or us, or all of us, whatever, is that it is a quartz crystal with an orange fire inside. That's what it is.
Right.
Very cool.
We all find inspiration in different places. I've heard Bob Grenier say something to that effect too.
Hey Lulu, the picture that you took out earlier,
Yeah.
it looks just like the RAV. If you take a look at it in a little more detail, you'll see the RAV, you'll see the little object in it, you'll see all of it.
Yeah.
And it builds out in brilliant light. So if you see the RAV when I had it out there, you'll see all the light coming off of it into your face and everything.
Yeah.
But I bet that in the sun, your picture in the sun does the same thing.
I don't. I mean, it's supposed to be a center of something, like a cosmic center of energy, and you've got the whole like the zodiac around it, and you've got all these like little different beams, and then you've got the little orbitals. But these things are in, uh, they're like in circles where it shows you like positive and negative energy, but it's a story. It's a complete story. It's really.
Well, that's kind of what we're trying to tell you is
That's it.
we're aiming, you know what I mean, in the future. If we could build out this wrap big enough, we can, kind of go towards the sun and what the sun's doing, but you're showing a picture of what the sun's actually doing in the solar system and how it's, revolving around again and again throughout where its journey is through the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
but when you look at it, if you put it out in the light and take a good picture for us, I'll put it right next to the wrap for you, and you can see exactly how similar they actually are.
Yeah, we have some
I'll have
wild
it ready
pictures I can
for
share
next
with you.
week.
All this,
Yeah, I'll
all
have it
these
ready for you guys.
prismatic beams, all ribboned off and separate and stuff. It's really, really cool stuff.
I mean, I played with it outside in the sun. I figured if it's like there's a reflection, it could be like a code of something. And so if I put it to the sun, I might reflect a code into the universe. And
Well,
I
I,
kept on.
I bet
You
you're
go.
going to get the same camera effects.
Oh, I didn't record it, but I was trying to send a signal. If the whole thing was a like um if the sun hits it through the cavitation, it will reflect back a code. So this is like a key of some sort. So I kept on, like I spent like few days, putting it at different angles, different, places where the sun, could reflect different intensities, hoping I would see something, anomalous.
Well,
But,
the next sunny day you get, go out there with your camera and take a lot of pictures of it, and then let's have you on.
absolutely,
We'll take a look at them together because I think you're going to see something awesome.
absolutely, I'm down. Yes.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I'd like to thank Steve Elswick from Tesla Tech. Thanks a lot again for joining us. Nathan, Lulu, Joel, and Mr. Phillip, and the one, the only Mr. Bernie, Crypto Alchemist. Everybody have a great week. Next show will be next Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. And we'll see everybody then.
Yeah, hopefully the Demystify Science videos will be ready.
Yeah. Yeah, if
Okay.
if that drops by then, we might have to do a review.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for hanging out with us.
Yeah, everybody just hang on after we go off. Okay, take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.